Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good day and welcome to our Allonnia webinar series. We really appreciate you joining us. My name is Rob Rappold. I'm our VP of Business Development for our SAFF business, which we'll talk about more today. And welcome to our series. Today, we have Casey Comer, and he'll be talking through our tiered service levels for SAFF, operational add-ons that we provide to enhance performance and efficiency, as well as a few case studies that we've implemented through these different service levels. So before we jump in, just a few tips in joining. The webinar is listen-only mode, so everyone except the presenters will be muted. If you do have a question, please submit it in the question box available on the right-hand navigation of your screen. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. You can also enter into full screen mode by clicking the expand button near the bottom right. And if at any time you lose audio or the screen freezes, please try refreshing your screen. Okay, so now to introduce Casey Comer. Casey has over 15 years of experience in environmental leadership, remediation, emergency spill response, and waste management in both business and the U.S. Coast Guard. He has a proven record of exceeding client expectations by focusing on innovative solutions and rapid scaling, which we put to the test a lot at Allonnia. Casey has formal education from Oregon State University, BS in Environmental Economics and Policy, and U.S. Coast Guard Marine Science Technician School. At Allonnia, Casey is our product and products manager, operations manager, wears many hats as it relates to what we do as a services business. So Casey also oversees our technician team, which he'll talk about more as well. So with that, we will go ahead and jump into our presentation. So as an Allonnia business, we have what we call a SAFF project workflow. And so really the way this starts is a client has a PFAS removal need and reaches out, and in a lot of cases there'll be a sharing of data or an understanding of Allonnia as a business or a SAFF process. And at some point, in many cases, customers are interested in us doing what's called a bench scale test. You can see at the left-hand side there, this is a demonstration that we do in our lab in Boston that mimics our large-scale SAFF operation, but does it in like maybe a 50-gallon increment to be able to send over. So our lab team will test it and give removal rates and concentration factor estimates, more of which we'll talk about. So in many cases, after the bench scale, it makes sense to go into a pilot. And a pilot is done with a full-scale SAFF unit, as you see in the pilot deployment. So these are usually shorter-term projects, a month or two, sometimes 3 months, where there's reproducible data to show how a SAFF operates on a given client site. So what we're going to focus on today, though, are the last two boxes there, our long-term deployment, as well as our partnered services. So this is where Casey is going to take over the presentation for a period here and talk us through these boxes here. Casey, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, Rob, and thanks everybody for being on here. I'm going to walk us through our services options. So first off, what is a long-term SAFF deployment? Essentially after the pilot period and we move into a permanent installation, and what does that look like? Well, obviously every site's a little bit different. The client needs are a little bit different. So we have a very flexible approach to that. But the big advantage is obviously we can move quickly with having, containerized units and inventory and things like that allow for a smooth transition, whether it's with that pilot unit itself that was there, or with if that's truly a pilot unit and we want a brand new unit to start it, then we can do that. And it's a fairly easy change out. It's pretty modular. So a new unit would come with these a comprehensive warranty. That's 12-month manufacturer's warranty. and telemetry and other support that goes with that. And then our team based in the US would have 2 to 4 weeks of setup and optimization. So, and the 4 week is really kind of depends on the analytical turnaround time. The actual setup of the SAFF is pretty plug and play. We're up and running and pushing water in 2 or 3 days. Longer term warranty options and extended telemetry services are available, as well as multiple O&M, and we'll say that a lot, operations and maintenance is what that means, cost model. So SAF's fairly automated, but there are ongoing maintenance and sampling and other things around the system, like any water treatment system. And we found that has value, and we've been asked to help do that. So I include, and the models around that include time and materials, specific scopes, or maybe per gallon that goes through the SAFF, or a fee for service. So we're pretty flexible with the cost models. What's included in those, we kind of have 3 buckets here we call our service tiers: a basic, hybrid, and turnkey, as you can see on the screen. A basic would kind of be, for the most part, with what comes with the unit. So it's going to be your included warranty, included telemetry for up to 12 months, the data that comes from that telemetry for 12 months, of course, some customer service that you would normally get, and then training, a handoff from our team that sets it up to the team on site. We can't add like kind of a bolt on there and say, okay, we just want the telemetry, maybe we want some extended warranty. We're centralizing parts, and so for rapid turnaround, things like that, and that would kind of be the basic. So this is really, if you got a site and you do a bunch of water treatment, you have a water treatment person on site, this would be ideal for somebody to just kind of bring that into what they're doing with other water treatment systems on site, and they already have somebody, so that makes a lot of sense. The hybrid model, that's a big bucket. It's probably the biggest bucket of this, is a very flexible space for us. So we would discount the service because there's an economy of scale. So you see when we look at our geographic map, is we can start to get density and get some semi-dedicated people or put them on routes and things like that. So we can discount that and make for more scheduled services. This allows for like some quality assurance type things, or maybe a long handoff or extended, help with the team that's on site. So it includes scheduled services like PMs, so the minimum weekly, monthly, quarterly PMs. They're not super intensive, but just being able to know that that's done, and outsourcing that's valuable. The cleaning, so depending on the water, the source water, the SAF's pretty flexible about what it can accept, but that also means sometimes we got to clean it, we got to do some other things on more complex or dirty waters. And then a re-optimization package too. So if source waters changes, or you have some flexibility or things like that, then we want to dial some things, take some analytical, get our engineering team to look at it and help with that. And then of course the extended telemetry services as well. So this is ideal for clients that have some limited resources, or want a long handoff, or really just want that, hey, you know what, like put the unit here, and I want you guys to come check on it and make sure that it's good. We can check on it daily, but we kind of want you guys still involved. So this is and this is actually probably where we've seen most of the services that we're providing, is kind of in this area. And then we have a turnkey. So this would include a dedicated local operator, and for local, for us it's like kind of a region or a state, because again, their weekly PM, they're probably coming by once a week kind of thing. And so this kind of would include unlimited re-optimization. We're kind of on the hook to make sure that any tuning or anything that needs to happen, we're taking care of. There's compliance and data support. So we're tracking the data. What's your throughput? What's the health of the system? What does your analytical look like? What are your removal rates? What's your waste generation? Like all these things. And we're analyzing that in real time with our data services and engineering team. And then again, extended telemetry, warranty packages, potentially even closer staging of parts, so that there's just that extra layer of security on downtime. And then we can also, potentially manage the concentrate. So say, okay, there's a waste stream now. It's, a concentrated waste stream, but there's still something to deal with there. We also want your person to go ahead and get that in a drum or a tote or whatever it is for us and get it on the truck, and we just want it to work. So that's kind of what the turnkey is. So this could be for a client that doesn't really have a lot of people on this particular site or around, or it'd be a big expense to bring on somebody just for this. And so they just kind of come with the unit, handle everything turnkey, as it sounds. So what are the elements in here? We kind of, again, the hybrid is kind of where we live. There's a lot of different elements that can be included in that we've found that clients want. And the extended warranty is a big one. I mean, it comes with a year warranty, but that assurance that if something happens, that one, there's a supply chain, there's parts available, and that it's just going to be taken care of, and by qualified technicians, that's valuable to a lot of clients. Additional training and optimization. So the system's fairly automated. It's really easy to operate, but there is an uptime with any new system, and to be able to come back and train new people, or at least provide the online trainings that we have, or remote support, just if they have questions, troubleshooting, things like that. Of course, the 24/7 remote telemetry, which comes with the unit for a year, but allows for real-time monitoring of certain metrics, of a throughput of almost everything except for what needs to go to a lab. So the analytical for the PFAS in the water generally, but we can also add that too. We have a lab that can do non-certified quick turn samples, not a problem. And then we have the data immediately and can help prescribe things. So, and then continuous optimization. So, okay, we're getting the great removal. Now we let's see if we can dry this fomate out. Let's see if we can reduce the concentration and increase the concentration factor. Let's get the throughput higher. Let's just whatever things, as we're starting to monitor the data and see the system, we kind of have a continuous process for that. And then centralized parts management as well. And then long-term partnerships, we also look at, ongoing reporting. So we can help with those reporting intervals to the regulators, the POTWs, innovation sharing. We're constantly bolting things onto the system. Allonnia ourselves are bolting things onto the system and learning more and more and more about how to treat better and more efficiently, and deal with more complex, unique situations. So that kind of comes with it as that relationship is maintained. And then SAFF unit updates. So the HMI and the programming and things like that do get updates pushed out like any other software, and then the support that goes with that as well. So as of right now, our headquarters is in Boston, so obviously we have a strong presence there. Our operations team and our yard and operations center and myself are all down here in North Carolina. So those are kind of started at our two main hubs, but now we've had to build for client demand and permanent installs that we're getting, and to be honest, coverage for pilots and things like that. We have personnel hubs, those lighter blue dots, out of where we have people that actually live there, out of the Midwest and the central area, and then out in the West Coast. And for some numbers, in our lab, we ran over 50 bench scale on our mini bench SAFF, and done pilots and long-term deployments in over 10 different states. So a lot of times multiple ones in the same state, but 10 different states. So we've dealt with, of course, the national regulations, but 10 different regulatory apparatuses and goals for PFAS treatment. And then we have 8 permanent installs that since inception to now, and another 17 unique pilots and demos that have been completed with full-scale SAFF systems.
Hey, Casey, I may just, if you could go back one slide, I may just add that, it's in terms of the looking at the map, in certain instances, you mentioned the differences between state to state, and how you can see differences, but also in a few cases, we've worked with customers to help develop what their permit criteria will be.
Correct.
So,
good point.
Yeah, so it's some states have rules that they're coming out, or regs that they're coming out with. In other cases, they want to understand, what a customer's capabilities are, and we help through that process so that
Yep.
they have, regs that work for the state, obviously work for the client, but we really help bridge the gap in instances like that.
Yep, that's a good point. We're really out there pioneering. I mean, trying to set that technology-based standard because we're setting the standard in a lot of cases for what's achievable in some of these waters. So it's a good point.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to go, we're going to do a poll. So our poll question is, let's see, which SAFF service model would best serve your PFAS treatment needs? And to maybe just to reiterate, you have the basic is, for the most part, Allonnia drops the SAFF off. Of course, we're helping with the commissioning and some training for the client. The hybrid is more of the a la carte, where certain things are picked, be it PM plans, cleanings, and so forth. The turnkey is more of Allonnia employees, technicians. Casey's team would be effectively running the unit for the customer. So data is starting to come in here, and I'll share that in just a minute. We'll give maybe another minute or so for the poll. And thank you to those who have participated. So again, we'll just wait a minute. So interesting. Just to share the information, I'll go ahead. If it changes, I'll let you know. But to this point, we have 33% choosing the basic option and 67% choosing the hybrid. Okay, 29 and 71. So the majority in the hybrid, about 25%. Now it's 25-55. So 25% basic, 75 hybrid, but keeping in the same trend here. So interesting that the hybrid is a nice balance of things. In a lot of cases, customers will have, if it's an engineering team or an operations team, maintenance team, that they want to look to utilize, and they like what we can do to help supplement. And that's really where a hybrid makes sense. Some customers are very clear, though, that if they are in a certain market producing a product, they want to focus on making that product, and they want someone to handle their water. So that's where the turnkey comes in. But I think we'll go ahead and close the poll now, with the end numbers being 22% basic and 78% hybrid. So thank you again for all those that participated. It's interesting and informative.
Good.
Back to you, Casey. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we've seen as well. Having a couple turnkey, but for the most part, it has been, sorry about that, advanced on me. Yeah, so let's look at some case studies, some actual real world examples of this. So we have a client site, a landfill leachate site in New England that we did the pilot, and then this one, did the pilot and then about a year later installed a full-scale system. So we did the pilot on the SAFF 20 system, which is essentially just half the size of a full-scale system, and then sized their site for a full-scale system. And it's on their site. They do have people on site, but it's definitely a customized hybrid option with monthly and as needed on-site O&M and support. So they do have people doing maintenance themselves, keeping up the weeklies, doing a lot of things like that. But then, they need a little bit more technical support with this, and they're trying to do different things, and they're trying to innovate as well around how this fits in. So we support them with that. And then training and reoptimization. They do have seasonal differences. So we help them reoptimize roughly when those seasonal differences happen. And then, training new people, ongoing telemetry support is part of that package. They use a lot of our engineering and compliance support. So this site we've helped not directly with their regulators, but behind the scenes really, coming up with solutions that will get them through the permitting and different things like that. And then providing a lot of support with our lab in Boston, giving them non-certified quick turn analytical so that during those optimization periods, we're not waiting on 2-3 week turnaround time analytical. So,
hey, Casey, just
yeah.
if you go, just this picture here shows, and this I'm going to go off script a little bit here, but the really the simplicity of the SAFF. I mean, this is at obviously a site in a snowy region of the U.S. and you know, the startup, you know, that typically there's a pad that's prepared. And Casey mentioned, you know, startup of a SAFF within just a few days. So it is, as we're working with clients and other engineering firms or consultants, just the ease of getting it started. And this, you know, these conditions here aren't ideal, as you can see, but we were producing treated water very quickly. So I think it's a good picture to illustrate that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the system was up and going and treating a year before their building was ready. So we were just out there running the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next one is a process water that needed to meet the MCLs for the local POTW and local regulator. The high-tech manufacturing client started this pilot to buy model. So the system that went there is a brand new unit, understanding that when the metrics were met, that it would transition to a permanent install. So the SAFF 40 system scaled to treat up to 100,000 gallons per day process water. So this has been a hybrid O&M model, very much a pilot, then optimization, analyze, get approvals, move to permanent install, and then kind of a long handoff. So the site has people on site that can help, and they're there, you know, 24/7. So there's always somebody keeping an eye on it. But we're coming in and doing the weekly maintenance, helping with data, helping with sample collection, and then training up more and more of their team to a very high standard of comfort and understanding of operating the system and compliance assurance. And there's a lot of engineering support, very complex and in-depth analytical and optimization with lots of data on this site, lots and lots and lots of samples and lots of data to look for trends. And our engineering team has been great doing that for this client as well. Another case study is a landfill leachate site that is discharging to a POTW and also reading state regulatory standards in the Midwest. We did this as a pilot back in 2024 with a SAFF 40, and then with scaled for 70,000 GPD, and which is their discharge limit. So that's what we run. And yeah, and then that has since moved to a permanent install. So this one was asked where the pilot was done and the unit was agreed to be placed there permanently, and then with that they wanted a turnkey O&M support, like just handle it, make sure we treat the leachate and we get the results we need to get, and you know, let us know if there's something we need to do. So this one is going to have a dedicated operator in the local area doing all the maintenance, the sampling, the handling of the foamate, and just whatever the system needs. And then on call, that employees, and also, well, a couple different employees in the area will be on call, and we'll also be monitoring telemetry very closely. And you know, I mean, sounds turnkey. So yeah, this one's yours, Rob.
Yeah. So you know what, Casey, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna answer one of the questions that came in, and then we'll go into the remaining slides from there. But the question came in just what is the general flow rate treated by a SAFF unit? So I'll just take a second. The SAFF is, and you can see obviously the picture there, but inside of that SAFF is, several tanks for incoming water and treated water. And Casey's given us a better picture here of the tanks. So the system has 4 primary treatment vessels, and what that really does is does the separation. That is where the PFAS is removed from the incoming water. From there, the system goes into what's called secondary and tertiary fractionation, and that's all about volume reduction. So clients that want to have a very small amount of waste to deal with, it can be dealt with in many different ways, from destruction technologies to incineration to deep well injection to in some certain cases, customers will make concrete. There's different ways to handle the waste, but the job of the SAFF is really twofold. The first is to separate the water so that the treated water meets the spec of the client. From there, it's about really reducing the volume of waste to deal with, and that's accomplished in the secondary and the tertiary processes within the SAFF. So when you factor in variable feed water sources, maybe I'll start with something like a leachate that has a little bit more complexity, a little more organic loading, maybe a little bit more TSS. In those instances, the unit does about 75, 80 gallons a minute. And so again, the system is capable of treating different sources. So an example of a leachate, a little bit more complex. I'll go to a groundwater that's a little cleaner, doesn't have as much in the organic loading, TSS is lower, and you can go over 100 gallons a minute, 115. It can be pushed to the higher limits there. So that's a range that's hopefully helpful to you. 80 to 115 or so gallons a minute, depending somewhat on the treated water. The question came in about the pre-treatment needed. The SAFF has filter bags on board, and really that's all that's needed. It's probably the best. There's many great things about the SAFF, but the idea that it doesn't need pre-treatment upstream, that the filter bags take care of the solids to a manageable point to let the SAFF do its thing. So really, that's all that's needed. Now, if there's a more complex source water that maybe involves higher levels of oil and grease, an oil water separator may be needed. The SAFF actually does a pretty good job at lower levels of oil and grease, but there are concentrations where something like that may be needed because the oil has basically is impeding the air from being able to remove the PFAS from the water. So those are maybe in an extreme case, oil water separators needed, but the unit is pretty fully functional just with its online or onboard filter bag system. I'm going to go to another question. This one says, particularly for AFFF rinsate or post-fire cleanup wastewater, does SAFF effectively remove, does SAFF effectively foam and concentrate ultra short or short chains, PFBA, PFBS, et cetera? Yes, it does. We have some data and even some really recent data, very encouraging, of an AFFF rinsate where PFBA and PFBS were highly removed from the SAFF. Now, that water foams, and it foams pretty heavily. So you do get a benefit of that foam and aiding in some of the removal, but it's very effective in that instance. Casey, I don't know if there's anything just on that you'd add.
Yeah, I mean, especially the question about pre-treatment, I mean, the whole foam frac idea and SAFF in general is designed for complex waters. So actually that's where the SAFF does great, is complex waters. It doesn't really care because it's going in and air is being injected. It's not going through any kind of filtration or media or anything like that. What we've actually had to do is to be effective for, you know, like DOD or other groundwater impacts, is figure out how to make that groundwater that's got PFAS, but it's not a high enough level of PFAS that we get them foaming themselves to boost that. So we've developed boosters to go with it. So I'm kind of connecting all three ideas here. So we've been able to meet the MCLs on non-foaming groundwaters by doing that, even with bio-based boosters as well. And then to the AFFF rinsate, we've done something which I don't really think anybody's done, because the foam management side of it's hard. And we've done some development around that, because we know that in a foam frac system, the more foam you get, the better you can treat. And we actually were blown away at what we were able to do, because yeah, the AFFF that's in the rinsate acted as a very good booster. So we got some of the best results we've seen ever with that. So that's still early, but that's, yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It's proven across multiple types of water with very low, you know, complexity. You just, hey, bring it in. Maybe you need a booster or something, or you need a foam management tank, but for the most part, it's just give me water and power and this thing's on.
Yeah. So maybe to play off of that more, a question came in. Can you speak to the power requirements for the SAFF?
Yeah. So it needs 480 3-phase power. We recommend it on at least 63 amp breaker. If you don't need extra heating and heat trace and things like that, just the SAFF itself, which has internal heating. So when that thing's closed, that's why you saw the one in the snow, it's got heaters on the inside. It keeps it very warm. It's fine on the inside. But anything outside of that, obviously, that's where we've had challenges or concerns, is like maybe way upstream on the feed side, on the client side, and we need to do some heat trace or something like that. And that would be some more, but the base, it really only pulls about 30, 35 amps, even with the heaters running. And we do track that. So we actually, you know, we can actually give some real world experience data on this is how much spend or how much power utilization, really, because the price of power is different everywhere. But we do know how much power is utilized, and it's very efficient.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, good question. So here's another one. How far are you with system capacity and upscaling, and what's the highest treatment rate you have done? So good question. I'll take the first part of this, Casey, and then maybe you can come in. But so we didn't talk as much about this during the presentation, but you can run several SAFFs together. So if a client needs, you know, say 300 gallons per minute of a groundwater, 3 SAFFs working together will meet that. We have a client that's doing that, and it's so we're, you know, that's, but there is a breaking point, so to speak, of where you wouldn't want to have, you know, maybe 15 SAFFs or 10 SAFFs working together. So we are working on, and you can see in this innovations and new capabilities, what we call the mega SAFF. So this is going to be an out of the box. And in this picture, you can see that is representing a building, you know, a plant floor space with many tanks. In this sense, there's probably, you know, 40 primary vessels. That's the larger number. Then there's those 2 blue tanks, and then the second set of those tanks would be the secondary fractionator. So this is something that can be a custom build. And what we're doing now is proving, you know, the concept that foam fractionation with SAFF can be done with larger tanks. And so this is something we're very excited about. Be rolling this out, you know, in the coming months. I'm going to say prime time in a year type thing, you know, time frame of, you know, being able to respond to these types of needs for mega SAFF. To the right of that is the SAFF 10. So mega SAFF, mega high flows. SAFF 10 is something we'll be rolling out really in the next month. That is capable of about 10 gallons a minute. So early on, I mentioned, you know, SAFF 40, 4 primary vessels, 2 secondary. this has a primary fractionator and does secondary fractionation. So perfect for a customer that just has kind of a base load, but at a low flow rate, 10 gallons a minute or so. We will be incorporating this SAFF 10 into a pilot unit that we'll be using in probably the end of summer, beginning of fall, having one of these SAFF 10s in a trailer that we can go and prove concept to customers at a higher flow rate. I mentioned the bench scale studies early on. That's 50 gallons. It's a snapshot in time, and it's very informative. But a lot of customers are saying, hey, I'd like to see this over time. I'd like to see it, over the course of a few months. So the SAFF 10 will be an asset that we can deploy to meet that need. So we're really excited about that. I'll just continue through the yeah, okay, I'll stop there. You're right. So the question was about outside of the box and different things that we're doing. I want to comment, these units are available. We have them ready to ship. There's a tremendous amount of demand for these, as you can imagine, with the ease of startup and just customers needing solutions quickly. But as a team, we said, look, we want to be prepared for that. So we do have a unit or two that would be available to be deployed to your site. Operational, optimized within a few weeks. Again, it's easy, it's simple, and it's just something that can solve a problem that you have in relative short order. It really is. It says there, like hoses. Many customers are obviously going to, for the long term, use piping and heat trace and all the things that are needed, or it's going to be inside of a building. But if you did have a need and you needed something quickly, it could have hoses. It's producing water quickly, and we're able to deploy to meet that need. So I'll go back. I touched on the first two here, Mega SAFF and SAFF 10. We're also, certainly in the realm of drinking water. NSF certification is important. So we're pursuing NSF certification for both the SAFF and for the accompanying boosters that go with that. A lot of the clients that we talk about at these higher flow rates have an interest in using reverse osmosis to treat the incoming water. So in an instance where RO is used to treat the incoming water, the SAFF unit is perfect for the concentrate. So SAFF loves salinity. It actually, what comes in an RO brine is really ideal for SAFF operations. So, we're excited to be able to use SAFF on the back end of an RO as we pursue an SF certification to be able to treat bulk water. Certain clients, really that waste minimization is super critical. So the SAFF hyperconcentrator is a unit that would take, primary concentrate from a SAFF and hyperconcentrate it. So it's even more effective in the concentration step than the onboard secondary and tertiary. But it's a niche kind of fit. It needs to to meet certain customer critical elements that would really be focused on waste minimization. But again, in the right instance, maybe where there's 4 or 5 SAFs, a SAFF hyperconcentrator could be tremendously beneficial to reduce waste. And the other thing that a capability that we have is a customer dashboard. So we are compiling a lot of data, as you would imagine, between the different source waters, different sites, different customer demands. And so we compile this into a dashboard that we can use to understand data more generally, but also to make dashboards for clients. So if you have had a SAFF that was in operation and you wanted to have something specific to tell you how your SAFF was running, how the data was, how it was being compiled and analyzed, this tool is highly beneficial. Customers love just having it at their fingertips to understand how their SAF's operating, removal rates, operating conditions, and so forth. So another thing that we're really excited about that we have. So Casey, I don't know, that was, I did a lot of talking there on those last three. Do you have anything that you'd want to add?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, a lot of this is coming from us in product and operations pushing these client needs. Like our big thing is we have a SAFF that's in a box. That's our main thing, but we want to be innovative at Allonnia. We don't want to say, well, we want to think outside the box, pun intended. So we're always pushing the boundary of what that system can do. And that means we need to design a mega SAFF or a SAFF 10 or a hyper concentrator. Or internally, we have, different foam management things that allow us to then get more and more aggressive. We have, we've done different things in different states that want to see more carbon on there. We've made that happen in-house as well. So just whatever, not air, carbon, we have polished with carbon as well when somebody wanted that assurance. And, like you said, putting RO in front of it, like this is all, we just want to really emphasize, I think, the innovation and the fact that we're making solutions around the treatment, not just kind of saying this is it, that's all you get. We've definitely been listening, and we're on a client side, and we're even looking into ammonia and COD, like how do we, okay, great, the SAFF does everything we need, but we need some other water treatment with this. Is that something you guys can just handle and make it easy for us? So I think that's important. That's probably what I get out of this, is that a lot of this is from feedback. We're not just like somebody sitting in a lab coming up with this stuff. It's what we've had to develop because of demand. And I mean, back to the services thing. I mean, that's what we do on the services team. I mean, it's all been kind of what's the need and fill that, and then get the right resources in the right places. And I think that's what I can add.
Okay, so we had a question come in. This is probably a good one for you. Can you speak to the cleaning requirements and how often, obviously dependent upon the source water, but maybe just a rule of thumb there?
Yeah, it depends on the source water. So if we have like processed water or groundwater, I mean, we clean it when we're done with the pilot, just as a matter of principle, but you wouldn't have to really. And when we're talking about cleaning, we're just talking about those hoods that you saw that allows us to see how the foaming characteristics are, which kind of an operator, the system's automated, but the operators can kind of tell. We call them foam whisperers when they get really good. They can kind of tell by what the foam's doing, how the treatment's performing against, what we should be. And less so on the removal, we kind of dial that in, but it's more on the concentration side. Like we know that we want that foam to be really dry. We don't want to have a bunch of water with it. We want the PFAS, not the water. So so we try to keep those clean on a heavier leachate site, like on a low groundwater, not very dirty groundwater site. That could be once a year or longer. I mean, it's not very often. And then for a leachate, it could be once a month or something like that. It just depends on how dirty the water is. But as a rule of thumb, I would say in the manual that comes with the unit, it recommends at least quarterly to clean those kinds of things. Just take them off and hand clean them, things like that. And as needed, or annually if there's a lot of scale or other things. Again, so the SAFF doesn't really care as far as treatment, but other things in the water can, if there's scale or hard water and stuff like that, then you would need to clean that as needed. But generally, we're seeing it, even the worst sites, that's probably a quarterly or semi-annually evolution of just filling it up with the solution, letting it sit for 24 hours and pushing it out. And that could be a planned maintenance, or annually 18 months, 2 years on a site that doesn't have that much. So it's fairly low impact, to be honest. We just bring it up because it is a maintenance thing that has to be considered.
Yeah. Okay. Great. There's another one here just about the number of personnel to run a SAFF unit.
Really, I mean, you need to do weekly maintenance. That's mostly like checking your bag filters, checking to make sure that there's no leaks, with checking like you would any other piece of equipment, but it's not, there's no downtime on the system for that. And really that unit can run by itself. You don't really need a person. So I'd say, if actual labor hours, you're looking at a few hours a week. Now, when you start adding things like the foamate management and the sampling, other things that aren't really running the SAFF, but part of the rest of the program, then that adds up. But the SAFF's automated. There's a telemetry team that's running multiple units and keeping an eye on them at the same time. Our team also are part of it, in like that hybrid models. We don't have somebody there, but we have people that are operating the systems remotely so they can operate multiple systems at the same time. So it could be a fractioner of a person, or say there's a site that has very high throughput, very high foam, very, scaly water, needs clean more. What we've seen is have somebody, say dedicated, but they're semi-dedicated. They can run multiple sites. So it's really a fraction of a person that we're talking about. Up to maybe one person if you just wanted to dedicate somebody, if you had multiple SAFs or something on one site. So again, we try to automate most of it out. It's just the physical maintenance and sampling and stuff.
Okay. I think I can take this one, Casey. For landfill leachate, can you give an idea of cost per gallon treated for a SAFF 20 unit for basic and hybrid packages? So, yeah, I think I would, I would, and I'd like to follow up with the submitter of this question, just because in a lot of cases, probably a SAFF 40 just for the benefits of the tertiary concentration. That's one thing we didn't talk about as much. So a SAFF 20 is 2 primary fractionators and 1 secondary. That unit does meet some, can be helpful to clients, but it does not have the ability to do a tertiary concentration step. So you're gonna, it's going to be effective at treating, say, maybe 30 to 50 gallons a minute, but you'll be left without the ability to use a tertiary concentrator. So let me just, maybe just as a rule of thumb, I would say if you're thinking about these basic and hybrid options, and as Casey did a great job of explaining, like they can be, you can pick and choose different things, but I would say on the, maybe a cent to 1.5 cent type thing is probably what you're looking at for a hybrid. For the basic, there's not really, that's a situation where the client owns the SAFF and we're doing the proper amount of training. And one thing I want to make sure everybody understands is, regardless of which package someone chooses, Allonnia is going to stand up for this unit. So if somebody bought the basic and they're like, I don't have these other things I didn't sign up for, but I need you guys to come out, there'll be a time and material type thing, and we'll come and help, certainly. So it's not just, you wouldn't be stranded with the unit if there was a problem, which we don't expect there to be. But so the question is more about, so the basic, probably the cost per gallon treated doesn't apply as much. And I would say on the hybrid, you're in the neighborhood of 1 cent to 1.5 cents. It could be lower, it could be a little bit higher, just depending on what all is added into to that package. So hopefully that helps. And if you have other questions that didn't answer it enough, shoot us a note. We'd be happy to talk to you about this and how we can help you. Okay, that's the list of questions that we have, and I, again, appreciate everybody submitting them. So yeah, just if you have a question about our services, how the SAFF works, Casey's your guy. He knows a lot about these things, and a tremendous amount of experience in working with the tech team, learning every day. Any questions on, you're interested in SAFF, any financials, any things like that, please reach out to me. Casey and I probably talk 20 times a day anyway, so we're we can get you the answer that you need between myself, again, VP of Business Development, and Casey, our Product Ops Manager there. So with that, basically includes the time that we have for today. I really appreciate, Casey, thank you. Very informative. Great job presenting today. So for everyone on the call, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to this recording and responses to the questions that we couldn't get to if something does come in. But as of now, I think we're good on covering the questions. A survey will also pop up on your screen. We'd love to hear your feedback. I should have mentioned earlier, this is a series of webinars that we do. We do roughly one a quarter. We're probably on webinar 5 or 6 by now. And we really enjoy doing them, but we want to learn how to make them more effective and efficient. So any feedback you have, we'd love to have it. So with that, thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.